Hey there. Today I want to share an amazing tale about Leah Stryker, a former cop whose life took a dramatic turn when he experienced something beyond comprehension, a revelation from Jesus about prayer that will truly blow your mind. But before we dive in, I'd love for you to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future stories. Now, let's jump into this extraordinary experience. I'm Leah Stryker, and it's surreal to be sharing this with you. A few years back, if you had told me I would undergo an experience that would change my entire perspective on life, I would have laughed out loud. I mean, what could possibly astonish someone like me, a seasoned veterinarian who thought they'd seen it all? Having spent years in the toughest war zones, I witnessed the darkest sides of humanity. I experienced things that are beyond what anyone should bear, and I had to make decisions that would haunt me. I thought I was strong, and I believed I had weathered every storm life could throw my way. I prided myself on my resilience, both physically and mentally, convinced that nothing could ever truly rattle me. But life has a clever way of challenging our convictions. The true challenge, as I learned, wasn't going to play out in an animal clinic or emergency surgery room. No, it would unfold within my own body, inside a hospital, far removed from any exam table or treatment area I had ever known. As I lay there in that sterile room, I encountered the most significant struggle of my life. Initially, I dismissed what I thought was simply exhaustion. Every veterinarian knows the long hours and demanding cases can leave you drained. But as the days passed, this tiredness morphed into something much darker. Something that no amount of veterinary experience or training could have prepared me for. I received a diagnosis of a rare autoimmune disorder that began to assault my heart. In just a few months, I was confined to that hospital bed, battling not external foes, but my very own body. It was a battle that was silent and unseen, yet every bit as merciless as any I had faced before. That's when my quest to truly understand what it means to live and to pray began. A quest that pushed the boundaries of existence and changed my views on life, death, and everything that falls in between. What I'm about to share next is still something I'm wrapping my head around. Imagine a situation that stretches beyond what we think we know, an experience that feels almost unbelievable yet utterly real. It's a story worth telling, not for my sake, but for the powerful truths it holds. Buckle up for a ride that transcends everything we understand about life. A ride that opened my eyes to the essence of love, faith, and what it truly means to be human. The adventure began on what seemed like another mundane evening in the hospital. I had been there, sick and growing weaker, for several weeks, battling a stubborn illness. The doctors were trying hard, but I could sense a growing desperation in their expressions. It felt as if they were reaching the end of their rope. That night, a shift happened within me. Every part of my being seemed to sense an impending change. Months of exhaustion culminated in a heaviness I couldn't shake. Breathing became an arduous struggle. Out of nowhere, a sharp pain seized my chest, so fierce that it forced a gasp from my lips. It felt like my heart was being crushed in a vice. Suddenly, the world around me dissolved into a blur, colors merging into a dull backdrop. I could hear alarms blaring and the frantic chatter of medical staff, but it was all so distant, as if I were trapped behind a thick glass wall. My eyelids grew heavy, beckoning me to surrender to the darkness. Then came a moment etched in my memory forever. While my body fought to cling to life, an unusual sensation took hold. It felt like something within me was breaking free. It was bizarre, almost liberating, as if I was being gently pulled from my own physical form. I floated above my bed and caught sight of myself, still and surrounded by a flurry of doctors and nurses working urgently. It was like watching a scene from some surreal film where I played the unsuspecting lead. Surprisingly, there was no fear coursing through me. Instead, I felt an inexplicable tranquility, as if I existed in a bubble of detachment. With a sense of quiet curiosity, I watched everything unfold below, detached from the chaos. I saw the medics applying the defibrillator, their faces etched with worry, sweat glistening on their brows as they fought to revive me. Yet, in that moment, I felt completely separate from it all. As I hovered there, it dawned on me that something much larger was at play. My body was facing death, yes, but a transformative journey was about to begin, reshaping my very essence. Out of nowhere, a powerful pull caught my attention. It wasn't something I could touch or see, but rather a profound force, as though the cosmos itself was beckoning me. I felt compelled to respond. Letting go of any hesitation, I surrendered to this invisible energy. Suddenly, everything I knew, the hospital room, my physical form, the medical staff, began to fade into nothingness. I found myself enveloped in complete darkness, a profound void that felt like it consumed everything around me. In that moment, it hit me. I had crossed a line. I was no longer part of the living realm, yet I hadn't arrived at any final destination either. I was suspended in an in-between state, a realm where the familiar rules of existence no longer held true. This vacant stillness marked the beginning of an unexpected journey, a path that would force me to face not just my own mortality, but also the very essence of my life's meaning. The sensation of darkness was unlike anything I had encountered before. It wasn't merely the absence of light, it was a complete lack of everything. There were no sounds, no sensations. The void was absolute. At first, the silence and stillness disoriented me. I couldn't fathom if I was moving or simply hovering in place. Was I a body or merely awareness? Time, too, felt irrelevant. In that space, seconds could have stretched into eons, or vice versa. Eventually, as I acclimated to the emptiness, a peculiar realization emerged. It was a profound understanding that transcended sight or sound. It was an intuition whispering to me. I sensed a significant absence, something I couldn't see or grasp, yet felt undeniably present. It struck me then. The presence of God was what I longed for. That thought hit me like a tidal wave. Surprisingly, despite never considering myself particularly religious, I discovered an intense yearning for that divine connection. In that defining moment, my defenses crumbled. The emotional walls I had meticulously constructed over the years fell away, leaving me feeling exposed and vulnerable for the first time in ages. It was in that newfound vulnerability that I did something I hadn't attempted in years. I prayed. It wasn't a structured or ornate expression. Rather, it was an unvoiced plea from within, a sincere yearning for connection and significance. As if the universe heard my silent call, I began to notice a subtle shift. Amidst the overwhelming darkness, there appeared a faint glimmer of light. It was tiny and distant, yet its presence promised something more. At first, I brushed it off as a trick of my mind, but then that light continued to linger. Gradually it grew, becoming not only larger but also warmer and brighter. Rather than being harsh or glaring, it radiated a gentle, inviting glow, pulling me in. I found myself instinctively drawn towards it, as though it was calling out to me, urging me towards something extraordinary. As I moved closer, the light expanded, taking over my entire vision. The void I had been surrounded by began to fade, replaced by an embrace of warmth and security that felt utterly new. In that moment, everything shifted for me. I realized that prayer wasn't merely about reciting words or phrases. It was something much deeper, a true connection that required full surrender. I discovered that every act of love and kindness I performed was, in essence, a prayer in itself. Wrapped in the warmth of the light, I felt as though I was being held by something much larger than me. The love enveloping me was so profound and unconditionally pure that tears streamed down my face, not out of sorrow, but from a joy that transcended any expression I could muster. In that luminous embrace, the once fractured pieces of my soul began to mend, soothing wounds I didn't even realize I had. For the first time, I felt an incredible sense of belonging, and it was within that sacred light that a powerful message pierced through my thoughts. Leah, embrace each day as a prayer. Your actions hold more weight than your words. The love you share with others embodies the truest form of prayer. This insight resonated within me, transforming how I viewed my life and my purpose. Surrounded by that divine radiance, I sensed a presence that was unmistakable. It wasn't something I could detect with sight or sound. It transcended the physical realm. In that moment, I grasped, without a hint of doubt, that I was in the presence of the divine. This wasn't the deity I had pictured during fleeting thoughts about faith. It was something far more profound, deeper, and infused with more love than I had ever imagined. Our communication didn't rely on spoken words. It was an unspoken understanding, a sharing of consciousness that went far beyond language. Imagine being enveloped in a kind of love that makes you feel both astonishingly small, yet inexplicably vital. It's a love so immense that it makes you grasp your role as merely a tiny vessel within something infinitely grand. In the midst of this experience, I began to see life not as a random series of events, but as a beautifully crafted journey for every soul's growth. Each encounter and moment of joy, along with every challenge and sorrow, turned out to be lessons waiting to unfold. Everything felt like part of a grand design, even if our human minds struggled to fully grasp it. This awareness washed over me, revealing a universe that was vibrant and conscious, a living entity filled with purpose rather than a lifeless machine. Every atom pulsed with this incredible love, weaving a tapestry of existence that connected us all. Realizing this interconnectedness was a revelation. We weren't just linked to one another, we were part of every aspect of creation. It struck me that every thought and action sent ripples through the very fabric of the cosmos, influencing everything in ways we couldn't begin to fathom. Time seemed to dissolve in this boundless communion. It felt like both an instant and an eternity all at once, overflowing with understanding that transcended anything learned on Earth. The more I absorbed these cosmic truths, the more an overwhelming sense of gratitude filled me. I felt thankful just to be alive, for each unique experience that had brought me to that precise moment. In the midst of this surge of emotion, an intense longing arose within me, a heartfelt yearning to see Jesus. This wasn't mere curiosity, it ran deep into the core of my being. And just at that moment, as if sensing my unspoken wish, the divine presence around me began to shift. It was preparing me for an encounter that would transform my understanding of love, sacrifice, and a higher purpose. As soon as I voiced my desire to meet Jesus, the light surrounding me grew brighter, signaling that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Imagine the very essence of existence shifting to accommodate my wish. Suddenly, in an instant, he appeared. Meeting Jesus was something I never could have prepared for. He radiated a light so vivid, yet it didn't overwhelm me. Instead, it sharpened my perception. I could see him more clearly than I ever thought possible. His expression radiated a profound calmness paired with wisdom that felt tangible. There was a remarkable depth in his gaze, as if it held all the secrets of the cosmos. But what struck me the most was the pure, unconditional love emanating from him. This love enveloped me, making me feel fully accepted, something I had never felt before. I attempted to hold on to the image of his face, to commit every little detail to memory. Strangely, no matter how hard I tried, that image would slip away, almost as if the enormity of his presence was beyond my comprehension. Yet he was undeniably there, filling the space around us. Instead of speaking aloud, Jesus communicated through actions. What he revealed to me is something that will remain etched in my mind forever. With just a gesture, he led me through the passages of my own life, almost like watching a film, but with an intense emotional clarity. I found myself revisiting not just the good and the bad choices I had made, but particularly those instances where I justified causing pain to others. The most haunting moments upended me. It was during those times when I thought I was justified in making someone else suffer that I felt the most profound sorrow. This realization struck me hard. I recognized that the burden of my actions was not only in the deeds I committed, but in the excuses I crafted to inflict hurt. I saw clearly how I had often wielded my position, strength, or perceived moral high ground to harm others, convincing myself it was warranted. Yet instead of judgment, Jesus' gaze was filled with empathy and kindness. It felt as if he was encouraging me to truly see, comprehend, and grow I did. I came to understand that every individual I had ever wronged held the same inherent worth in God's eyes as I did. I discovered that real strength doesn't lie in overpowering others, but in extending love to them without conditions. As I reflected on my life, Jesus shared 3 crucial lessons that deeply resonated with me. The first lesson opened my eyes to the essence of living prayer. He explained that prayer isn't merely about words, it's woven into every act of kindness, every loving gesture. It's in our actions that we reveal our true relationship with God. Next, he guided me to embrace suffering with a sense of joy. I began to see suffering not as a form of punishment, but rather as a chance to express love and generosity to the world. even during our toughest moments. Jesus taught that we can face hardships without letting bitterness take root, transforming pain into an opportunity for growth and compassion. Lastly, the final lesson illuminated my purpose of sharing God's love. Jesus made it clear that my mission was to be a vessel of divine love for everyone around me. This revelation was my real purpose, the very reason I was meant to return. With these lessons deeply engraved in my heart, I felt a remarkable change within me. It was like every part of my being was reoriented toward a newfound mission. As I glanced at Jesus one last time, a surge of gratitude washed over me, something I could never put into words. He smiled at me with an expression that seemed to carry the love of the whole universe, and I recognized that it was time to return. I noticed a conflicted feeling rising up within. A part of me longed to linger in that serene haven of peace and love. But another part, now aware of my true calling, understood that there was still plenty left to do on earth. With a gaze filled with compassion and understanding, Jesus helped me realize my journey here wasn't finished. There were still people to assist, love to spread, and lessons to convey. This transformative experience had changed me, and it was now my responsibility to share that change with the world. As I began to move away from Jesus, I sensed a gentle pull drawing me back. It felt odd, almost like I was swimming against an invisible tide, yet this current was guiding me precisely where I needed to be. As I stepped back, the brilliant light that had enveloped me slowly began to fade. Not abruptly, but gradually, like a sunset on a warm evening. Little by little, shadows crept back in, but this time it felt different. It was not a menacing or hollow darkness. As I navigated through what felt like a tunnel, memories of my past raced by me, each one sharper and more vivid than before. It's amazing how a different perspective can change everything. Every choice I made, every joy, and even the pain I experienced took on new significance because of what I had come to understand. I reflected on my childhood, the years spent in veterinary practice, and the animals and clients I had encountered along the way. Instead of condemning the old version of myself, I found myself filled with compassion for that younger Leah, who was oblivious to the ripples her actions created in the lives of the animals she cared for and the people she served. Moving closer to the tunnel's exit, familiar sounds began to reach my ears. The beeping of machines and the hushed conversations between doctors and nurses drew me back to reality. There it was, my body sprawled on a hospital bed, and it felt strange, almost like gazing at someone I should know but didn't. For a heartbeat, I hesitated. Re-entering that body meant confronting pain, physical constraints, and the struggles of everyday life. Yet, remembering the lessons I had embraced and the mission that awaited me fueled my resolve. The moment I reconnected with my physical form was electrifying. It felt as though every nerve and cell jolted from a deep slumber. I was abruptly reminded of the sharp pain in my chest, a reminder of the ordeal that had nearly claimed my life. Slowly, I opened my eyes, squinting against the harsh fluorescent lights above me. The chaotic sounds blurred into focus. The rhythmic beeping from the heart monitors, whispers of astonished voices, and a nearby exhale of relief. I attempted to speak, but my throat protested, feeling raw from the breathing tube. Then a nurse rushed into view, her expression a mixture of disbelief and jubilation. "He's back!" she exclaimed, calling for help from someone just beyond my side. Moments later, a team of medical professionals surrounded me, checking my vitals and peppering me with questions, all while marveling at my unexpected revival. But honestly, their voices faded into the background. My mind was still racing with everything I had lived through and the insights I had gained. Yes, I was back in my body, but the person who had returned was fundamentally different. I emerged as someone transformed, embraced by a love so profound and part of a purpose that exceeded anything I had ever envisioned. As days turned into weeks, I began a journey of recovery, navigating not just the physical challenges, but also tending to my spiritual and emotional rebirth. My body felt frail, still recovering from that illness that nearly took everything from me. Yet my spirit radiated strength like never before, driven by a clarity and a purpose that went far beyond any physical struggle. The doctors were puzzled by my turnaround. They tossed around terms like spontaneous remission and miraculous recovery, trying to rationalize what I sensed was something far more profound. I didn't attempt to articulate my experience to them. After all, how does one describe the ineffable? Instead, I expressed my heartfelt thanks for their care, feeling a deep appreciation that went well past mere professionalism. In each of their faces, I could see a reflection of the divine love I had felt during my journey. As I regained my physical strength, my perspective of the world shifted dramatically. The once irritating sounds of traffic, the sluggish pace of those around me, and the little annoyances of daily routine began to feel trivial. Where irritation once dwelt, a wave of compassion took its place. I started to realize everyone is on their unique path, grappling with invisible battles of their own. Moreover, my view of life and death underwent a significant transformation. The fear that death once held over me faded into understanding. It became simply a transition, a doorway into something greater. This shift didn't diminish my appreciation for life. Rather, it heightened it. Each moment began to shine with significance, a golden opportunity to embrace the love I had encountered in that deeper reality. The ambitions that previously drove me, career goals, pursuit of status, and material gain, suddenly felt hollow, stripped of their allure. I recognized what truly mattered: love, service, and being a vessel of divine compassion in the world. With this newfound clarity, I started to notice chances to extend love and help all around me. A simple smile for a passerby, a gentle word to someone who seemed down, offering assistance without expecting anything in return. These small gestures became my daily prayers, practicing the lessons I had learned. My relationships took on profound meaning too. I reached out to those I had wronged, seeking their forgiveness. I rekindled friendships I had overlooked, realizing that every interaction was a chance to spread love, not through preaching, but through my actions and a heart full of kindness. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, I hardly ever paid attention to the wonders of nature. Now, though, it amazes me. Every tree, every blossom, every sunset feels miraculous, a vivid reflection of the divine love that surrounds us all. I've started to carve out time to truly connect with the natural world, and it feels powerful. My spiritual journey has taken a fascinating turn as well. I haven't joined a traditional religion or committed to any formal doctrines. Instead, I've shaped a personal spirituality based on my own experiences. Nowadays, prayer comes easily, like second nature. It's not about rigid rituals. It's more like an ongoing dialogue with the divine, something I express through my thoughts and actions. Of course, adopting this fresh perspective hasn't magically eliminated life's challenges. Physical discomfort still lingers, reminding me just how fragile our bodies can be. And I've encountered some skepticism from those who struggle to grasp what prompted my transformation. There have definitely been moments of doubt when the strength of my experiences felt eclipsed by the mundane demands of life. Yet, during those tough times, I cling to the memories of love that uplifted me. Each obstacle becomes a chance to practice what I've learned, reinforcing my commitment to love and compassion, even when it's tough. As days turned into weeks and months, I found myself living in a way that felt like a prayer, a continual outpouring of the divine love I had come to understand. Gradually, I felt an urge to share my journey with others. It wasn't about craving attention or accolades. It was a deep-seated impulse to communicate the message of love and purpose that touched me so profoundly. Initially, I opened up to close friends and family. Their responses varied. Some were skeptical, while others were genuinely intrigued, oscillating between excitement and confusion. A few embraced the changes they noticed in me right away, but for others, comprehending the depth of my transformation took time. Slowly but surely, my audience grew. I found myself invited to share my story in small gatherings, local churches, and community spaces. Each time I spoke, it felt like I was fulfilling a critical piece of my purpose. Yet I often struggled to articulate such a deeply profound experience. It wasn't easy to find the right words for something so transformative. It all began with a struggle. Finding the right way to express the depth and beauty of my experience proved quite challenging. However, as I reflected on it, I discovered that it wasn't just my words that mattered. It was the transformation within me. The peace, love, and compassion I now radiated touched people more profoundly than I could have imagined. As I shared my story, invitations poured in. I found myself speaking at larger gatherings and diverse groups. One moment I was addressing fellow veterinarians and animal care professionals, offering them a fresh perspective on the often taboo topics of life and death in the animal world. The next, I was with support groups, where I provided comfort and a new angle on facing terminal illnesses, both in animals and in their human companions. Those encounters were especially meaningful. I loved connecting with fellow former animal caretakers and veterinary staff, sharing how my experience had reshaped my understanding of what true strength and compassion really mean. Many resonated with my journey, using it as a tool to navigate their own challenges and uncertainties in both their professional and personal lives. Throughout this journey of sharing my narrative, it became clear that different people absorbed my message in various ways. For some, it reaffirmed their spiritual beliefs. For others, it nudged them to rethink their thoughts on existence and mortality. A good number simply found in my tale a flicker of hope and a narrative of transformation. Of course, not everyone received my story with open arms. I faced skepticism and, at times, outright hostility from those who dismissed my experience as mere hallucination or fiction. Certain scientific circles even attributed my story to processes that occur in the brain during near-death experiences. But over time, I learned to brush aside those negative reactions. Everyone travels their own path, and my role wasn't to convince anyone of my truth. Instead, I was there to share, plant seeds of thought, and allow individuals to forge their own journeys. One of the most crucial lessons I absorbed during this process was the importance of honoring each person's unique experience. I came to understand that my beliefs and insights weren't meant to be imposed on others. Rather, I learned to present my story as a gift, offering it gently so that each person could accept or decline it based on their understanding and readiness. Eventually, I took to writing about my experience. What began as a personal journal to work through my thoughts and feelings gradually blossomed into a book. The act of writing was both a challenge and a deeply therapeutic journey in its own right. With every word, I found myself reliving those moments, exploring my heart and mind as I committed my story to paper. As I shared my journey, I noticed something remarkable unfolding within myself. Each time I recounted my story, it felt like I was reaffirming my commitment to the purpose I had been given. Conversations with others deeply affected by my experience allowed me to weave the lessons I'd learned more intricately into my life. This process of recounting my experience made me realize the power of being open and genuine. I chose not to shy away from my doubts or struggles. Instead, I shared them, making my journey relatable and authentic, rather than presenting myself as someone with all the solutions. It was surprising to discover how my story resonated with so many people across various belief systems. Messages poured in from individuals with different backgrounds: Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, atheists, and many more, each finding something meaningful in my narrative. This really reinforced my understanding that the love I had encountered was a universal force, transcending individual doctrines and teachings. Then there were those invitations to speak with individuals facing their own near-death experiences or terminal illnesses. I can't tell you how fulfilling it was to offer them comfort, hope, and a fresh outlook on their situations. It really felt like I was living out my purpose, and I could see my message making a difference. As more people connected with my story, the impact rippled outward. Friends and family began to contemplate their own lives, seeking ways to embrace love and live with intention. At work, I noticed coworkers approaching conflicts with more empathy and patience. It became clear to me that the effect of my journey extended well beyond my personal experience. Sharing my story was like casting a stone into a pond, creating waves of change that were often subtle, yet significant. Ultimately, what left the strongest impression on me was the ongoing reminder of the love and connection that had transformed me. This journey of sharing didn't just help others, it also enriched my understanding of myself and the world around me. Whenever I discussed my journey, I could see the spark of understanding and hope in others' eyes. That warmth and love would wash over me, almost like a reaffirmation of my own experience. Sharing my story became more than just something I did. It essentially turned into a heartfelt prayer, a way to keep alive the transformative moment that reshaped everything for me. Life after my near-death experience certainly brought its own trials. Surprisingly, those hurdles seemed to grow more daunting even as I learned to navigate them better. One of the trickiest parts was managing what others expected of me. A lot of people thought I should be a sort of miracle worker, someone who'd never face struggles or moments of weakness again. But when I showed the slightest hint of frustration or fatigue, I could almost feel their disappointment. It was vital for me to balance the extraordinary event I went through with the everyday challenges of being human. Yes, I had experienced something profound, but I was still on a learning curve, still evolving. During those tough times when I couldn't meet anyone's lofty expectations, I had to remind myself to practice self-kindness. Another struggle was the loneliness that sometimes followed my shift in perspective. While I felt an incredible bond with the divine and a love for humanity, I often found myself feeling quite alone in that reality. Very few people could grasp the depth of what I'd lived through, which sometimes put a strain on my relationships, even with those I was closest to. I realized I had to consciously create connections, build bridges of understanding with others, so that I could share my truth without diluting my experience. This took a lot of patience and compassion, as well as a commitment to see the divine within each person I encountered. On top of that, my physical health presented its own set of hurdles. Although I recovered from the critical moment that nearly ended my life, my body still carried the marks from that battle. I had to learn to cope with limitations and, at times, persistent pain. It became a continuous exercise in acceptance, a journey to embrace life fully, even when facing those constraints. The way I related to the material world has shifted dramatically too, bringing its own difficulties along the way. As I reflect on my journey since that unforgettable night in the hospital, a deep sense of gratitude washes over me. It's the kind of gratitude that roots itself in the very fabric of life, a recognition of its beauty and complexity. The things I once thought were all important, like career achievements, material wealth, or social standing, now feel superficial. They pale in comparison to the profound experiences I've had. Learning how to coexist with this heightened spiritual awareness has been quite a ride. Some days, the realization of divine love and the interconnectedness of everything weighs heavily on my heart, making it challenging to navigate everyday life. Balancing my foot in the everyday world while keeping the other firmly planted in the divine has required some serious adjustment. Over time, what I initially saw as obstacles transformed into valuable lessons. Each struggle, every moment of uncertainty or frustration, became an opportunity to embody the love and compassion I had discovered. I started establishing daily routines to keep me grounded and connected to my transformative experience. Practices like meditation, prayer, and soaking up nature became my lifelines amidst the chaos of daily living, enabling me to remember the bigger picture. One of the most vital truths I uncovered in this ongoing evolution is the necessity of balance. It's about finding harmony between the spiritual and the everyday, between giving and receiving, and between accepting reality while still striving for positive change. True wisdom, I learned, lies not in rejecting any part of the human experience, but in embracing it all with love and awareness. And the journey? It's never ending. Each new day brings fresh lessons and opportunities to immerse myself more deeply in the love that I've encountered. That near-death experience didn't signify an endpoint. Rather, it launched me into a continuous voyage of discovery and transformation. So here I am, day in and day out, navigating challenges while also celebrating my achievements. This path I walk is one of perpetual growth, always open to learning and striving to express the divine love that has now become the essence of my being. I've had this incredible experience, something that felt truly beyond words, and I've been lucky enough to share it with others. Since that day, my life has revolved around continuous learning and growth. Each day offers fresh chances to embrace the lessons I've gained and to be a vessel for the divine love I've felt. It's not always a smooth ride, though. There are tough days where the weight of challenges feels overwhelming, and I struggle to recall that life-changing moment. But during those times, I pause, take a breath, and remind myself every breath carries its own prayer, and each action gives me a chance to show love. One major insight I've gotten is that spirituality is woven into the fabric of our daily lives. It's not just something we tap into during meditation or formal prayer. Instead, it shapes our way of being and interacting with the world around us. Every choice, every encounter, every fleeting second gives us the chance to express our deepest truths. I've come to realize that love, especially the unconditional kind I've encountered, isn't some distant, elusive concept. It's a powerful, tangible energy that has the potential to change lives. I've witnessed this transformation not only in my own life, but also in numerous others who found hope through my journey. People began discovering strength amidst fear, finding purpose where there was once void, and embracing life during dark times. Reflecting deeply on reality itself has been one of my most profound realizations. My experiences have opened my eyes to the fact that existence encompasses far more than what's immediately visible or tangible. There are layers of being that surpass our everyday perception. This doesn't lessen the value of our physical life. Rather, it adds to its significance. Every single moment here serves as a special opportunity for growth, love, and making an impact. And then there's the idea of death, which used to fill me with dread and worry. Now I perceive it as a transition, a journey to something even more significant. This change in perspective doesn't undermine our appreciation for life. It amplifies it, encouraging us to savor each moment, recognizing that every experience we have is both precious and unique. Looking back on my path, I see how each challenge and moment of uncertainty became stepping stones for my development. The physical hurdles I faced instilled in me a sense of patience and acceptance. Misunderstandings with others fostered compassion and empathy within me. Even the doubts I occasionally felt propelled me toward a more genuine, authentic faith. I often find myself reflecting on how everything in this universe is connected. It's fascinating to realize that we aren't isolated individuals. Instead, we're threads woven into a grand tapestry that binds us to one another and to a higher power. Understanding this brings along a weight of responsibility, one that urges us to treat every person, every creature, and every part of existence with kindness and respect. As I look ahead, I'm filled with a blend of humility and a sense of direction. I know there's so much more for me to grasp, so much more growth to pursue. Yet, there's also a purpose driving me forward. Each day presents a fresh chance to embody the love I've known and to share that love with those around me. The future is a mystery. I can't predict how much time I have left in this life. What I do know is that each day is a precious gift. It's an occasion to create positive change, to spread warmth, and to truly immerse myself in life. For anyone who encounters my journey, here's a straightforward message. Love is genuine and powerful. It's the strongest force we have, accessible to everyone whenever we reach for it. We don't have to face a life-threatening situation to find it. Love is present with us right now, just waiting for us to embrace it. My adventure is far from over. Each day brings new learning, growth, and abundant opportunities to love. With each breath I take and every heartbeat, I'm committed to passing on the insight I've gained. Approach each day as if it were a prayer. Love without conditions. Serve as a vessel for the divine, because in my belief, that's where our true purpose lies. So rather than wrapping up my story with a decisive period, I'll leave it open-ended. The journey is ongoing, love flows endlessly, and life, with all its wonders and enigmas, continues to astonish and enlighten us constantly. If you found this heartfelt spiritual reflection moving, I'd love for you to show your support by giving a thumbs up, sharing your thoughts in the comments, subscribing to the channel, and turning on the notification bell to stay updated on future videos. Together, we can spread this message to even more people. Until we meet again.